Oh, there. Okay, there we go. All right. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Hello, Golden Owl. Hey, good to see you in here. So, the topic for today is going to be transgender people in the military. Now, I know this is probably going to be not really a sensitive topic, but I think it's going to be an emotional topic. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of preface this a little bit, and then I'm going to invite people in and we can talk about it. And we're going to go in that kind of traditional roundabout fashion where one person's going to speak, the next person's going to speak, and then we're going to have a question. So, some of the topics that we're going to be touching on is the what the military is saying about the cost of it, and the fact that there's already transgender people in the military and what kind of an impact it actually has. So we're going to try to look at both sides of this. We're going to look at the pro side and the con side from the point of view of the government and also from the personnel themselves, meaning the people who are transgender who want to serve in the military. Now, I know that we may have people who disagree, so I'm going to ask that you kind of just hold back from trying to shut down the conversation. So there are certain ways that we can try to shut down a conversation. Like you can try to shut down a conversation by telling somebody that they don't know what they're talking about, or they don't have, they don't have medical knowledge, or they don't have this, or they don't have that. I'm going to kind of try to refrain from encouraging. I'm going to tell people to kind of refrain from using dialogue that is going to shut down a conversation. Obviously, if you have an opinion about something, you think somebody's an idiot, they're stupid, or whatever, that's your choice. If you want to use language to describe somebody, but again, it doesn't really do anything for the conversation. It just kind of, you're not really attacking the points anymore. You're just saying stuff to try and get a rise out of somebody, or maybe just whatever. So, for those of you, hey, Sniper Boy, welcome back. For those of you who want to join, please let me know. What I'll do is I'll just post a link in here in the chat, and then you guys can join. So yeah, so I think that's pretty much about it. I'm going to try to keep this this show under an hour, well, an hour long. So let me post the link, and then we can talk about this. And so I posted the link in the chat. So when you come in, we'll let people, we'll just chat for a little bit, and we'll try to let people come in and get a good group of people. If it gets maxed out, that we're just going to have to be a little more patient with people, and let people talk, finish their sentence, and then go on, and be respectful of the time limit. Don't take up too much time. Allow other people to. Hey, Zabora, how are you
Hey,
doing?
what's up? I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
You hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I sure can. Yeah, you sound great.
Awesome, awesome. Been
Yeah.
super eager to talk about this too. It's oh, I'm pumped.
Yeah, it's been going around, and I think we can just go ahead and get started on it. Just you and me, and then as people want to join, they're more than welcome to. But so okay, so what do you know about this this ban that Trump has implemented?
From what I heard, the Pentagon is not supporting it or trying to do anything with it. It was just a random Trump tweet. And then I also heard that it would increase like military spending by like 8 million or something. But then the United States government spends 5 times that amount on Viagra for the military. So that's pretty much what I've heard about it. I think it's a little silly because it's going to be a real nightmare to withdraw. What is it, like 125,000 troops?
Withdraw 125 troops. 125,000.
125,000. Yeah, yeah. Those are the transgender people that are currently serving in our military. like 125,000 or something.
Really? That
I
seems like an
think
awfully
so.
high amount.
That's what I thought. I was like, that seems a little high, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like 12,000 or something.
Okay. Well. Okay. So, well, whatever the amount is. So, do you know?
Yeah.
Do you remember why they wanted to withdraw them?
I believe from Trump's tweet, if I recall correctly, he said that he didn't want to spend the money for the hormone treatments, and I think they also have to undergo psychological evaluations for quite a while. I'm sure Ray's may know a bit more about this if he ever shows up.
Yeah, I'm hoping he does show up because I'd like to get his input on this.
Yeah, definitely. But from what I understood, it was going to increase military spending by like 8 million or something like that. I know it was like a high number, but then I also heard, like I said, that the military spends more than that on Viagra.
Right. Yeah. Now, okay, so the Viagra thing, I do actually have a little insight into that. One of the reasons why they spend so much on Viagra is because when soldiers do return from war, a lot of them are suffering from PTSD. And one of the consequences of PTSD is erectile dysfunction. And that
Right.
is, so that actually will prevent somebody from, say, having a sex life, having a family. So I can understand that. It's not like they're just, they're just trying to get the most raging hard on they possibly can. That's not the point of it. The point of it is to actually counteract some of the effects of PTSD. So that, okay. So first of all, I agree with you. The whole cost thing, that just seems like a smokescreen. I mean, if you look
Yeah,
at the military budget that we have, it's huge. you know,
it's huge.
yeah, it's
It's huge.
huge. So I don't really think that is a serious. I don't. My personal opinion, I don't feel it's really a stumbling block. I think it's something else. But it is interesting that you mentioned that it is something that just Trump tweeted out, and it doesn't sound like I forget what you said. If you said that Congress wasn't behind it.
No, the Pentagon,
Pentagon.
because I just Googled this like a couple of maybe 20 minutes ago. And it's like 2 days ago, the Pentagon said that they're not going to be backing it. And then I did also read that Congress can, I think, overturn his decision if he did implement this.
Okay. And there's a guy in the chat. I just recognized him, Rich. I know that Rich has been in the military. So, Rich, if you want, there's a link right there. You're more than welcome to join me because I'd like to get your input on it because I know that you served in the military. So, um, yeah, and so okay, so the Pentagon, yeah, I mean it's really to me it okay, so this is what I understood of it. What I understood of it was that we already had some, I don't know the exact numbers, of transgender people who have served in the military and are currently serving in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, last I heard, there was Trump tweeted out, and I don't know all the specifics of that he wanted to ban transgender people from the military based upon information that he had gotten from generals. So my first question, I started kind of like mulling this around in my head was, well, okay, what would be the reason for it? And then they were saying cost, okay, and they were saying that uh, it's a mental disorder, and then there's also the accommodations for transgender people. So there's a lot of reasons why you would not be accepted into military. For example, being colorblind, flat-footed, having mental disorder. I've even heard allergies, stuff like that. So there are certain criteria that would keep you from entering the military. Hey, Rich, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hold off 1 second, Rich. Let me finish this thought, and I want to get your opinion on this.
Yep.
So that's what I had heard. But then I started thinking about it. I said, well, wait a second. We've already had transgender people in it. Then it doesn't really matter because somehow they're already accommodating them. They're already spending whatever money they need to for them to. if they do want to transition, and not all people who experience, this is of course my knowledge, all people who experience gender dysphoria get operations. Some of them don't. They just don't undergo operations. They just sort of, they just identify with the gender that they identify with, and they, you know, but they don't actually go through the surgery. And then the other thing was the mental disorder part of it. And I understand that a lot, the transgender people are considered, it's considered to be a mental disorder. Personally, I don't think it is a mental disorder. I think that it goes deeper than that. In my mind, a mental disorder is something like a broken leg, or something that can be, you can actually sort of fix or live with if you take certain medications or go through certain therapy or whatever. I don't think gender dysphoria or transgender is a mental disorder. But again, I'm not a psychologist. I have absolutely no control over that. So, but that's just my own personal opinion. But hey, Rich, so first introduce yourself a little bit, because I don't think many of my viewers know who you are, and then you can talk on this topic.
Oh, I'm Rich. I have my own channel. It's Christo Witch 2005, a Christo Pagan, and I do the Monday spot on Pagan Perspective.
Okay.
I don't know what else you want me to say.
Oh, I was just, okay, so what we were talking about was, you know, Trump's ban on transgender people.
Yeah, it's
And
been
so
a hot button topic at work this whole week.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you know about this issue?
I know that during their time of transition, whenever they're either on hormones or doing the psychological eval, during the psychological eval, they actually go to, I believe it's San Antonio, Texas, and then they go back to their to the base that they're actually stationed at, and they go through the hormone treatments under the supervision of their primary caregiver, and then they're not deployable that entire time. And then once either they have the surgery, or once you know, it's said whether or not they can have the surgery, after that, and everything's like clear through medical professionals and mental health professionals, then they're cleared for deployment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just thought,
have you ever worked with anybody who's transgender in the military?
No, I have not.
Okay. I was just curious. Do you happen to know approximately how many transgender people are in the military currently?
I don't know off the top of my head. Let me see. I do have an email here. I'm gonna try to pull up
Okay.
that was actually sent out to all military members.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
Maybe someone could Google that for us. The amount of transgenders in the military.
Yeah. If somebody wants to do that, that would be great. And then maybe post it. You might not be able to post it in the chat, but let me know. Actually, you can. You just, yeah. If somebody wants to Google it, and then maybe tweet it to me, and I'll put my Twitter in there.
Okay, this is the email that I received at work. It's from General Goldfein.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, to all airmen, Secretary Wilson and I would like to emphasize that all airmen are treated with dignity and respect as we go through potential policy changes referenced by the chairman in his message below to the military members. And his message is, I know that there are questions from yesterday's announcement on the transgender policy by the president. There will be no modifications to the current policy until the president's decision has been received by the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary has issued implementation guidance. In the meantime, we will continue to treat all our personnel with respect. As importantly, given the current fights, the challenges we face, we will remain focused and accomplishing our assigned mission. So that was the email that we got. I think it was the day after the whole tweeting fiasco.
Mm-hmm. So that sounds like pretty much just a PR email. was kind of like
it really was, and I
yeah.
was waiting for it. I thought it was going to come out like the day of, and I'm like, I need to see some official word of what their stance is. And then I hear that the generals and the Secretary of Defense and like nobody knew what was going on.
Right.
They're like, we didn't talk to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were. Yeah, exactly. They were probably in the dark. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Zabora.
Well, no, I was going to say, like, that's true because there was a bunch of people who said they didn't know what he was talking about, but that email also sounds like there is nothing besides Donald Trump's one tweet about not wanting transgenders in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It doesn't sound like they're implementing anything. But I guess you guys also maybe got to consider that this is just a distraction. You know, he's a really good manipulator.
And I tweeted that on my Twitter feed. You know, I kind of wonder what the other hand is doing. Whenever we're all sitting here wondering about one thing, what's he planning on the other side?
Yeah, I don't think. Hold on, Zora. I don't think he's that intelligent. I mean, to be quite honest, I don't. I mean, I don't. I really don't think he's that smart. I mean, I think he just got a hair up his butt and just made a tweet. That's what I think. Maybe he talked to one general, and they had coffee or whatever. They shared a cigar, and he goes, "Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to ban transgenders from the military because I'm the president." And he sends out a tweet. I don't think he really thinks that far ahead. I don't think he's actually trying to do something in the wings.
I mean, probably talked to a fake general from Fox News.
A fake general, though.
People they will actually act like they're a general. Like they'll go around like it's there's a term for it. Where they they'll put on the rank and all that.
Stolen valor.
That's it. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Ray's is in the house too. So hey, Ray's, yeah, we're hoping also get you in here. We'd like to get your opinion on this. Let me see. So Zabora, what do you think that he would be doing? He would be doing, you know, as a smokescreen for this.
Okay, honestly, I mean, look at the week he just had. That freaking new mouthpiece after Spicer got let go. He's like, I'm tired of all the leaks in the White House. Here's some more leaks.
So you think it's just
trying to cover up the stupid?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that could be. So let me see what Go ahead.
Well, it could be like you said, he just saying shit. He doesn't realize he can't do it. I mean, he did that in his campaign. I'm getting rid of NATO. I'm getting rid of NATO. We need NATO, you know, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's what he does. He honestly needs a Twitter filter. He needs a PR person.
He does.
Look at his tweets before they get sent out because he does stupid stuff. I don't know if he's on the toilet or what. He just decides to tweet, you know, and then whatever he tweets out, he fucks up, and then his PR people later on they have to fix it. It's like he's not a politician. He's not even a businessman. He's basically just a rich, spoiled brat who became the president of the United States.
Pretty much.
But he's not a politician. He doesn't know how to act in that capacity.
That's what our fucking government's become, a fucking circus.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Rays, how's it going?
Hey,
so we were
pretty decent. How are you doing?
Yeah. So we were talking about this transgender issue in the military. And so what do you know about this? What have you heard?
I'm going to try and be as succinct as possible. And if I'm rambling, let me know and I'll shut up. Now, first of all, it's a tweet. It's not actual policy yet. Okay, my second thing is, from having read about this, Donald Trump has yet to name the experts. He has yet to name the generals with whom he was talking. Even if he was talking with generals, would these be generals who know about the who have the medical knowledge as to what happens when one transitions? Or would he just be like, well, he's talking to the generals and the generals just don't take a liking to trainees? I don't know. Now, oh, hi, dog. Dog wants attention. Okay. Now, I think that if for some reason there is going to be a policy reversal on this, because mind you, as you said, transgender people have been in the military allowed to serve and be openly transgender and be transitioning and to have things like their hormones and SRS surgeries paid for by the VA. Now, like that or not, it's already policy to, so this is going to be a reversal. So what's going to happen to the soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors who are actually transgender and serving now? What's the policy on that? Are they going to be grandfathered in or what? Now, I think that the approach to this really needs to be nuanced. I would actually be very, very happy to listen to somebody who's like, well, I don't think transgender people should be allowed to serve in the infantry because XYZ. If somebody is actually talking about, say, medical transition and how hormones affect somebody, and they actually aren't just running around saying, well, this just weakens the military, blah, 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 I would be willing to at least listen to somebody, with an argument like that. With the money situation, anyone saying, well, it costs too much money because it's estimated to cost roughly $2 million, I would, and I got that from one article. Other articles may say different things and such, but I would like to know from somebody who uses that as an argument, how much does it cost for the VA to pay for quadruple bypass surgeries for people who eat themselves into obese slobs after they, get out of the service? How much does it cost, say, for the VA to pay for somebody's insulin because they eat like pigs and now they have diabetes? Stuff that actually is lifestyle choices. So I think we need to square that up and actually compare the costs, because $2 million might actually be mice turds. Now, it's not mice turds to me. I will never see $2 million in my entire life unless I win the lottery or something, right? So it's not mice turds to Jane and Joe average, but it may be mice turds to the government as compared to all the other costs for all the things that are actually covered for people that have actually chosen to do things to themselves. Also, with respect to things like, flat-footed people and stuff, I don't necessarily think that flat-footed people should serve, but if there's no good reason for them not to, let them serve. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that, okay, then there's a reason they don't want flat-footed people. I don't know, maybe they're slower or have bad balance or something. And
that's actually Ray's. Let me interrupt you for 1 second.
Sure.
I think that's a great topic, and I think we should get to that later on. But let's go back to the military cost. So
Sure.
I want to kind of go back and forth, get everybody's opinion on this. So let me go down the line. Rich, what do you think about that? The whole the cost defense.
$8 million per year is a drop in the bucket. I've done budget allocations for the government before, and it is a drop in the bucket.
Okay. And what do you think, Zavora?
Well, honestly, like Ray said, my question is, what difference does having a penis or a vagina have? Women are allowed to serve, right? Men are allowed to serve, right? So what is the stigma here? Is it the surgery itself? Does having a surgery to have a penis put together or a vagina dug out, is that really enough to disqualify somebody? Does it affect their body and their performance somehow?
Yeah.
Like, what is it here, you know? I just don't see how they can argue this case at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. I think that's the next topic we should definitely talk on. And I agree. I think, like Rich had said, and also Ray said, $2 million, $8 million in the military budget is really, it's really nothing. It's really nothing. But you brought up a good point, Zabora, about the male and female in the military. So uh, expand a bit on that, and then we'll go down the line and talk about it.
Okay. Well, like, okay, remember the 90s? They all blew up about the gay people joining up, and they were freaking out, going, don't ask, don't tell. And then it became, hey, you know what? If you're going to have the balls, lady balls or otherwise, to go and fight and die for our country, then fuck them, you know? Do it. I ain't doing it. Fuck that.
And what do you think, Rays? I'm sorry, Rich.
Well, as far as what was the whole question? It was about men and women serving, or
yeah, I mean, so okay. I'm just kind of recapitulating what Zabora said, but basically, there's already men and women serving in the military, and they serve various capacities, and there hasn't been a problem before. And then when the whole "don't ask, don't tell" thing came up, because they were concerned about gays being in the military. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about this? Obviously, you've been in the military, so I'm assuming you probably worked with men, women, and probably gays. I'm just assuming that.
Well, I'm gay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and we just had a lesbian in our shop that just left. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm not out at work because, I mean, I'm in maintenance right now, and that's not really a good spot to be out. You know, it's gotten a lot better, but there's still a lot of stigma to it. But I think what a lot of people need to realize is that most people aren't going to be on the front lines. So depending what their job is, it's pretty much a moot point.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think, Rays?
Okay. Let's see. Are we talking about what? Are we comparing this to gays joining the military, or I'm a little? What's the specific question as to what do I think?
Okay, so Zabora had brought up the point about how we already have men and women serving in the military. So what does it matter if somebody goes through a transition to go from, let's say, male to female or female to male?
Right.
Because how would that exactly impact their performance, because they already have men and or women in the military? And then she also brought up the point about there's the no ask, don't tell, don't
ask,
thank you. I was tripping over my tongue there. Don't ask, don't tell thing in the military. And so just
okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's one of those things. As far as how transition will affect a human being's performance, I'd very much like a doctor, in particular an endocrinologist, to talk about that. It would be great if we could wave a magic wand and get an endocrinologist who works for the military and so understands regulations about, you know, who can do what on what hormones, if there are such regulations. I'm not going to say so much about that because I don't know. What I will say is, let's say, for example, somebody is they're a male to female transgender person, so they would be on estrogen. Okay, now that well, now let's say for whatever reason they are not then sufficient. They cannot sufficiently perform a particular task in the eyes of the military. That does not mean, however, that they cannot be transferred to another department. I mean, the military needs desk jockeys and nurses, and the military needs people that aren't always shooting guns. You understand? And again, this goes beyond my knowledge of what makes a person fit for fighting, and again, just medical knowledge in general.
So let me see. Let me just take a look at the chat because the chat's been blowing up here. Let me see.
Oh, yes.
Talon Wing Dancer said the Pentagon paid for an independent study about healthcare for trans soldiers. 0.00001% of total military spending, but 85 million was spent on Viagra. That's what's wrong with this picture. Okay, yeah, we actually talked about that topic of Viagra. Viagra is usually given to military personnel because of PTSD, and that I can understand. It's not like they just want to have a raging hard on, and so they go to their doctor and say, "Hey, I want to get Viagra because I want to doink my wife." There's actually a reason why they do that. But I see your point, and I think we've already kind of established this. The military budget is so huge that 8.4 million is really not that much if you look at the whole military budget. Let's see. Shane Fairbanks says making taxpayers pay for transition surgery is wrong. That's okay. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about that, Rich?
About what's that? I'm sorry.
Okay, so Shane Fairbanks says making taxpayers pay for transition surgery is wrong. What do you think about that?
Have you seen what else your tax dollars go to? I mean, if only you knew some of the stuff that were bought with your tax dollars that you didn't even realize.
There's a little hiccup in my feed there. Okay, yeah, I agree with you, but that's kind of a mute. Yeah, I understand what you're saying about that, but should people pay for unnecessary? Well, I guess it really doesn't matter because it's still anything could be considered unnecessary or superfluous, or certain surgeries could be construed as needed surgeries and some could be construed as not needed. But I think, again, that's sort of military spending. I think our tax dollars, like you said, are going to go to whatever. But anyhow, what do you think about that, Rays?
I'll tell you what, I will totally get behind that statement when the person saying that statement starts vehemently campaigning against pork barrel spending, or starts vehemently campaigning against civil asset forfeiture. That's when cops basically steal your shit. My point is, when people say that, unless you're dealing with a very unusual sort of person, you're not dealing with a person who consistently believes that their tax dollars should not go for things for which they don't support, and are aware of where their tax dollars are going. Usually what you're dealing with is a person that just doesn't like the idea of people transitioning from one sex to the other, and just really isn't paying attention to where their tax dollars are actually going. And again, I remind you, to the individual saying this in the chat, you might actually find an ally in me. Tell me where your tax dollars are actually going, and tell me which wasteful spending you are, in point of fact, against.
Well, because, actually, Rays, I think that it's a valid question. Okay, at the beginning of this broadcast, I had talked about statements that we would make to shut down the conversation, and I think that that's something that is trying to shut down that conversation. And I don't think I got a little something on my screen, and I think that the question, aside from just the question itself is a valid question. I mean, it could be applied to many various things, but I think that the question is valid, and I think we should not try to shut the person who's asking the question down. So anyhow, did you want to clarify on that?
Okay, well, Yeah, I apologize, and that wasn't my intent. But if that's how I came off, I certainly apologize. Um, my point of clarification is, if you are saying I don't want my tax dollars going toward X, fine. Why? Where else are your tax dollars going? How much money do you think is of your personal finances? How much money do you think is actually going to people's SRS surgery?
Okay. And what do you?
Saying.
Okay, thank you. And what do you think, Laura?
I'm sorry, my phone had freaked out. We're talking about military spending and stuff, right?
Yeah. So okay. So somebody in the chat brought up making taxpayers pay for transition surgery is wrong. What do you think about that?
Okay. Well, see, now I can understand someone being on active duty and they don't want to pay for cosmetic surgery because that puts one of their soldiers down. But I just, if you are willing to lay down your life for me, I can help pay for your surgery. That's just how I feel.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, so my opinion on that is, yeah, I mean, I think the military spending is inflated anyhow, and I mean, there's all kinds of various things that people do, certain contracts, certain people get to, to spend money, and $8.4 million is really not that much in a budget, and I think the cost of plastic surgeries or transition surgeries is it's really not all that much. I think in the end, if the taxpayer can end up paying for surgeries anyhow. For example, if somebody got, I mean, there's a way that it could happen. So I don't know. I mean, it's a valid question, but I think that in the end, it's just the military budget is just so huge, it really doesn't matter. You're going to be spending $8.4 million on fucking it's ridiculous. Yeah, you're going to be spending that you're going to be spending that anyhow. So it's coming out of your pocket. Let me see. Okay, so they're talking about surgeries, cosmetic. Let's see. Hey, Animist, how's it going?
Hello. Is my audio coming through okay?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
It is.
Okay, I'm trying to find a way to keep my breathing
bound
from coming over this microphone. I don't know, it's got a really high gain. So let me know if I'm Darth Vadering and I'll mute myself.
All right. Let me see. Okay.
I do have kind of an opinion.
Huh?
I'd asked anybody freaking out in the chat.
The chat.
No, there was just one guy who was just like, "Oh, these people in here are idiots." Well, then go the fuck away.
The chat is full of trolls tonight. You seem to have found a good searchable troll topic for them.
Hey,
not really.
Dude.
I only saw Terry Bet wants a bigger penis should be entitled. Let me see. Penis great again.
Hi.
Hey, Christina, how's it going?
It's going.
Oh, hello.
Hi. Just having a night off and trying to get stuff done and flipping around Hangouts and thought I'd join you guys.
Oh, good. Glad you did. So we were talking, obviously, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we were talking about transgender people in the military. And so I want to just kind of like get your understanding. First, let me go back to Animus, and then I'll come back to you, Christina, because I want to get your input on what you know about this topic, and then we'll continue on from there. So Animus, what do you know about this, about the transgender ban that Trump tweeted out?
Well, as far as the Trump goes, the man is Zaphod Beeblebrox. He is constantly throws random diversionary things all over the place and doesn't follow up on them. And I don't think that's the major issue. because he doesn't care if his random Zaphod Beeblebrox antics change society, but he throws them out there anyway just to get other people to have something to respond to other than what's really happening. That's not really my concern. My concern is the way the United States treats its veterans and its service members. That's my concern. Once someone has basically given their life into the service for the society, then, in my opinion, whatever needs they have as a result of having given their life to the society need to be met. And whether someone shares a point of view with whatever their needs are, or whether those needs extend beyond their active military service, it's the responsibility of the society to hold up their side of the bargain. And traditionally, the United States of America has treated its veterans and its active service people like disposable trash, and accepted their sacrifice without giving back an honorable exchange for their well-being. And it's disgusting. It's perceived around the world. The VA has spent years and decades avoiding their responsibility to deal with health issues from people who have served in the military and had, serious health conditions as a result of serving in the military, and have basically treated them like they're disposable. And that's a completely dishonorable and inappropriate thing for the society, the government to do to their soldiers.
Yeah. Okay.
That's long-term beef with the government and the society.
Gotcha. So, okay. So just so people in the chat know, I don't have patience for fucking idiots. If you have a complaint about my style, you have a complaint about any of my people or whatever, that's fine. If you have a valid point, I will listen to it. If you just have some kind of a complaint about something, I have no patience for you, and I will kick your ass out of my fucking chat. So the guy who's on a timeout right now, sorry, but if you have a valid argument, I'm more than willing to listen to it. But if you just say, you're just going to insult me, yeah. I have no patience. Sorry. I had patience when I was 18 years old. I don't have patience anymore. All right, Christina, what do you think about this?
I agree about how we're treating our veterans. The issue is not taxpayer dollars here. Part of it is we don't fully understand how gender works as far as the brain, the body connection. I'm just getting that out there. But even people who have mental illnesses, who have been in the military, physical illnesses and stuff, we do treat them like crap. And unfortunately, once they're out of the military, they're forgotten about. I see too many homeless vets. I see too many of them begging on the street just for food. And this is inappropriate. And this is just one more excuse to say, well, we don't want to put any more money into this. That's all it is. And really, there's not that many people who are transgender in the military in the first place. So what is this massive cost that's costing us taxpayers? Really, there isn't one. There's bigger costs for wasted fuel being purchased and lost. Things like that. There's been too many costs over the years, but as he said, we've trashed our veterans. My stepdad is a vet, and one of his friends just had all of his psychiatric medications pulled because the VA said they wanted to cut cost, so they turned around and told him to buy over-the-counter Tylenol, and this is a fact. The guy's schizophrenic.
Okay. So I think the next topic is, and somebody just mentioned in the chat about gender dysphoria or gender. I'm trying to figure out a good term for this. People who are going through gender transitions
Mm-hmm.
or gender identity switches. I really don't know a good term for that, but so it's considered to be a mental yeah,
Transition.
yeah, okay, transition. So people consider it, or it's considered to be a mental disorder, and so people are talking about how if people are in the military who are having a mental disorder, should they be serving in the military? So I'll go down the line. What do you think about that, Rich?
Well, I kind of equate that to the same thoughts back in the 60s before Stonewall, whenever everybody thought that, you know, being homosexual was a mental disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think, Reyes?
Well, I mean, it depends on the mental illness, because mental illnesses, depending on what it is, can affect individuals very differently. How bad is the mental illness? Again, this is like, well, you know, what are the requirements to serve now anyway? You know, are there mental illnesses that's like, well, you know, we don't care if you have this or that mental illness, so just take your meds and go forward. Or maybe there's a requirement that says, no, you can't be mentally ill at all. And as far as whether or not gender dysphoria is actually a mental illness, I don't care. To be perfectly honest, you want to call me mentally ill? I don't care. You don't want to call me mentally ill? I don't fucking care. What I care about is when people say, oh, it's a mental illness, therefore, and then they essentially say, okay, let's treat transgender people worse than other people. Because there is still a stigma around being mentally ill, and that sucks.
Yep.
Okay. What do you think, Zabora?
I'm kind of in line with Ray's here. You know, it's like how having never served in the military myself, I do not know if the military has kind of clause against mental illness. Some people say yes. What do you say, Rick? Is there a clause against people with mental illness in the military?
I cannot honestly remember what the criteria was when I first came in. I've been in, let's see, 11 years now, so it's been a hot minute.
Okay, well, maybe that for us then. But if it is a mental illness, I still don't see how transitioning could affect maybe your workload. Because like Ray said, you know, you can get transferred to a different unit if you're unable to perform your work duties. There's always somebody to replace you. So I don't care. If it's a mental illness, then fine. It's a mental illness. I don't see it that way, but if you're going to be a dick about it, then sure.
Okay. And what do you think about it, Christina?
I have other friends who've served in the military that the military knew they were bipolar. Okay, so what is the difference? If they do find out that yes, transgender, that gender dysphoria actually is a mental illness and not a body chemical imbalance or something similar to intersex. If they do find that out, why are we treating anybody who's mentally ill as less of a person? Period. How come? Why is there this stigma? If it's something that cannot be helped, what is wrong with us? And yeah, there are different capacities that people can serve in, and having gender dysphoria, how is that really going to affect the person being able to serve? We already have transgenders who've been serving in the military for years, and they're doing their jobs just fine.
Okay. And what do you think, Animist?
Well, there's two aspects to my perception on this.
Jobs just fine.
Oh, there's more things popping up. Okay, yeah. There's two aspects to my perception on this, if I can remember them. One, we're living in a world where humans need militaries. Okay. Let me do the other one first, because one thing, a military organization is about what works. It's practical. If you can do your job in whatever way that you do, according to the assignment that needs to be done, that's what matters. It's not a moral judgment. It's a matter of can you execute a task and get a job done. That's what matters to the military. That's what matters in reality. Okay. And so whatever has to be done to help people be more capable of doing that job, whether it's training expense, having the right equipment, having the right supplies, diet, medication for the person so that they can do that job better, then that's what you do, because a military operation is an inherently practical operation, period. And so, and the other side of that is we live in a world that has militaries. This is a species that goes through huge expenses to try to kill each other off and make each other miserable. From a shamanic point of view, that means they're all psychotic. They're all mentally ill because
you're getting into a great point, but it's you're getting into a great point. But we've had military since the dawn of time.
Yeah, it just shows
one capacity or the other. So
most societies are crazy, so you can't use mental illness as a reason to excuse somebody or to deny somebody military service because your whole society's nuts.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Sniper Boy just joined us. Hey, how's it going, Sniper Boy? So hopefully you've been following the conversation because I don't want to repeat too much.
Oh, I have.
I was trying to keep this under an hour, but I don't think it's going to work.
Sorry.
So what is your perspective on the people in the military? The point of having people in the military who are going through gender dysphoria, and it being considered to be a mental disorder. What do you think about that?
Man, dude, I'm gonna be honest. Like just to go off what we've been saying, the cost argument doesn't really work. Like, I'm personally against having transgender people serving in the military, but in regards to being a mental illness, I just feel I have my whole family has basically been in the military. I almost joined the military too, but just war is literally hell. And so just looking at the rates of maybe because there are disqualifying factors where you can't join the military if you've tried to kill yourself before, and transgender people are way more at risk to those kind of behaviors. And even regular people who have no mental illness, when they're put in a combat situation, they lose it and go nuts. So I mean, just it's a crapshoot you're playing with.
Okay. All right. I kind of want to get. I'm assuming that are you against having transgender people in the military?
Personally, I am.
Okay. Well, that's all right. I don't want us to all gang up on you like we did last time. But I do also want to hear your point of view, because right now, I feel that most people that we're talking about this, we all are pretty much pro having transgender people in the military. So I definitely want to get your point of view on that. But you mentioned that people who are transgender are more susceptible to mental illness. Is there any case or anything
to depression and suicide? And
I'm sorry, you were just talking about depression and suicide?
Well, in that realm of mental illness, like the self-harm kind of stuff.
Okay, all right. But what do you think? What do you think is the strongest argument against having people who are transgender in our military?
Well, I would say the morale issue, because people, no matter how much you want to say people are gonna accept people for who they are, that's gonna be a morale issue for people having someone like that. They're not gonna like that. No matter, you can't teach people this stuff, because no matter what you say, it's not normal. It's not normal. Gender dysmorphia or whatever. It's not what the normal. It's just not how it goes. You know what I mean? So it's just I don't know. And in a combat situation, you just, I don't know. And someone in the comments said too, like if you're on estrogen and stuff, you're not going to be as strong as you used to be either. So, because women don't really serve in frontline combat in the U.S. I mean, they sometimes get stuck in their place.
Okay, so that's your strongest argument against it?
There's no really like this is it, but it's just a myriad of things.
Okay, all right. Okay, so all right, you brought up a couple of points. One on my heard was women serving on the front lines. So let me go down the line. Rich, obviously you've served in the military, correct?
Yep, still am.
Okay. Now, so do you want to speak on that?
Women on the front lines?
Yeah.
I have no problem with it. I was in Iraq in 2006, and there were plenty of females there that were serving with me, but I mean, we weren't in direct combat, but you know, we were basically watching all of the hired contractors, the Iraqis and the third country nationals, the TCNs, third country nationals. We were basically watching them work to either rebuild stuff or pave our roads or whatnot. So we weren't in direct combat or in any direct kind of situation where you were in danger or in immediate danger. But we did have like bomb threats and stuff like that, you know, through them coming through the gate and whatnot. So, I mean, you always carried a weapon, and women were just as capable as any of the men. So,
okay. And what do you think about that, Reyes?
If the requirements do not have to be lowered, let them. I would also say too that warfare over time changes as technology changes. So I think what may have been a concern in World War II or in say the War of 1812 or something isn't necessarily going to be a concern or as much of a concern today in 2017 when we have things like, you know, drones and the like. Now, granted, I just said it's 2017, it's current year, but that being said, it's I'm saying that warfare changes, so you may have so the context of what people in combat are going to be doing is going to change to one degree or another. Again, if the requirements aren't lowered, great, Godspeed, have at it. Kill, maim, and slaughter. Go.
Right. Okay. I'm just going down the line by how it's laid out in my Google here. Zabora, what do you think about that?
Women have been allowed to serve on the front line since 2015. So this argument is kind of debunked, and it also debunks another one. If estrogen given to men lowers their ability to be stronger and produce testosterone, there are still jobs open to women on the front line. So if a man becomes a woman, you know, it's the strength is still there, still required for a woman to be there. So unless he fails some kind of physical where he is unable to perform his duties, I don't see an argument here.
Okay. Okay. And what do you think, Christina?
Well, I guess, you know, after witnessing most of my life, a woman with one paralyzed arm buck out and hold down, you know, 16 and 17 hand horses without a problem and outgun the cowboys that she'd been with and carry around 80-pound hay bales and everything. Estrogen is not a problem here. Training is what matters. And if they can physically handle it and they're capable of doing their job, you know, the hormones aren't going to be a major issue, especially if you have a woman transitioning to a man and getting the testosterone. And everything has to be done with blood testing and everything else so that the levels are not out of whack. And there's more than just testosterone. There's other medications and herbs and things like that involved to help balance everything out and help the transition along properly. Shocking the body and without causing the, you know, the roid rage and all of that stuff. So most people are not aware of what actually goes on. And I think some of the biggest complaints about the transgender in the military is we've seen so many people on YouTube and in the public eye who are trenders, who are doing it for popularity or whatever. And that's what the GOP had been counting on, that Milo was talking against and everything during the election. And I think that's what's stuck in people's heads right now. Not the people, not how the process is done. People are not researching how it's done, and they're not looking at, is this person serious about it and that they're doing this? And yeah, if they can't do their job, either the military is going to find a place for them to be able to do a different job, or they're going to say, well, you can't, but you've served honorably or whatever, as long as they have. And, you know, they still should be able to get the military benefits and things like that, that they should be getting once they're retired out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what do you think about that, Animist?
Am I audio?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What exactly is the question you're asking?
So the question was, Sniper Boy had brought up about women serving on the front lines.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak on what you think about that, about women being on the front lines, and you know.
Oh, okay. So you want to know about women as potential combatants, and generally in combat? Okay. For one thing, anyone is free to look up how much force it takes, even for a frontline soldier in actual live fire combat. How much force does it take to pull a trigger? It takes about 1 or 2 pounds of force at the most. How much force does it take to pull a radio key so that you can talk on a radio and communicate with command? A couple of ounces. So that negates the you know, caveman argument that you have to be able to lift 500 pounds in order to be in combat. Now, the other aspect is I spent 4 decades in martial arts and trained a lot of women to be extremely dangerous. And let me tell you, women are as capable, even in close order operations and close quarter combats, of being extremely deadly, extremely quickly, using the appropriate techniques. In fact, in the martial arts community, women are considered something of the more dangerous combatants, because they know they're not there just to bang somebody in the side of the skull. They know they're there to fight for their life. And so in an actual combative situation, women tend to be more vicious and less reluctant to express their viciousness. And so they're entirely capable of extreme combat operations without reserve. Those two things are out there. Modern weapons, as in, since the bow was invented, do not require a man's strength to use. And they literally don't. You don't need a man's strength to shoot.
Are you talking about a bow or a crossbow?
Either one.
Okay.
In fact, and you know, the crossbow made the armored knight on a big armored horse. The crossbow made that entire, you know, strength-based technology completely obsolete in, I don't know, the 13th century. Which is, so the whole thing about who is strong is for people banging each other's heads together in a bar somewhere on Friday night. It's got nothing to do with actual military combat. I have personally taught women to throw huge men around the room at will, because it's a matter of science and leverage. And when you start getting into firearms, bombs, things controlled by radio, you don't need to be able to lift a giant dumbbell or carry huge sandbags around in order to do whatever you need to do, because there is technology. So women have the will, they have the technology, they're completely capable of performing all kinds of roles, and they don't run away screaming when things get rough.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So that was interesting to get everybody's opinion on that. because I think that does kind of bring, it does kind of touch into the topic of transgender people who are transitioning, like to say from female to male in the military. Would they be able to hold their own in the military? That's a good question. I think that I think there's physical differences between men and women. But you know, that's maybe kind of something that is, I think, that would kind of distract a little bit from this conversation. So okay, so if anybody else in the chat who has an opposed opinion to us, I think it'd be nice to. I posted the link a couple of times. You're more than welcome to join us, because I don't want Sniper Boy to get picked on.
Nothing I am not used to.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, good. Because he was a good sport. He was in my channel before, and we were talking about New World Order and the Illuminati and all this stuff. And so I just want to gang up on you again. So okay, so we talked about the physical aspects. We talked about the financial aspects. What about personal issues in the military? Relationships, housing, showers, etc., like that. And so I'm going to kind of go down the line again. And so Sniper Boy, you'll be first. What do you think about female to male or male to female transitioning in the military? How would they bunk, and how would they take showers? And do you think any personal relationships, or what are your thoughts on any of that? It's kind of a big topic.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, what's going on?
I mean, people in the military are brutal, man. Like basic training makes or breaks people. And I don't know, we might not say that happens, but like people are gonna not be like hazed, but they're gonna know that they're different, and people don't like people who are different like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna feel weird about it. I mean, people who typically enlist are not gonna be. They're gonna think it's kind of weird.
Okay. Pulse, do you want me to call you Pulse?
Yeah, that's fine.
Or what do you like to call?
That's fine.
Okay. Hey, Pulse, welcome to the conversation. So, what's your kind of opinion on this whole topic? Kind of, if you could summarize how you feel about transgender people in the military.
Actually, I want to start out by saying this is one that I don't have a side on yet.
Okay.
I'm on the fence about it myself. And to add, I did 4 years back in 2002 to 2006 in the Army. My personal opinion always starts off with like, okay, let people do whatever they want, you know, as long as it doesn't affect me. But when it comes to the military, it's almost like a whole nother world when you look at it from the inside. There are certain standards that have to be met. There's certain guidelines you have to go by as opposed to being a civilian. When I was in, I didn't come across any transgender people. I didn't know if there were any. Actually, the thought never even crossed my mind back then. I mean, we're talking about 10 to 15 years ago. But I can understand the concerns of a lot of people when it comes to the cost aspect of, not as an argument, but just as a concern. I can understand the psychological aspect of it, how people say, well, if they're going through the transitioning process, that's already hard on the person to begin with. So you add on the strenuous parts of the job itself, especially frontline, that could also cause, I don't want to say a rift, but it could cause concern within the unit, the group that they're in. But no, I just joined in to just kind of give my 2 cents here or there.
Okay.
When it comes up.
Yeah, well, that's okay. So I'm just kind of like going down the line, getting people's opinions on that. But I also, because you just joined the conversation, I wanted to kind of get a feel of where you were on this issue, and it sounds like you're kind of in the middle. So okay, that's cool. So Sniper Boy kind of shared his opinion about that. What do you think, Rich? What do you think about people who are transitioning, being in the military? Would they need special bunks, or would they just go ahead and bunk with how they identify with, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the main issue would be during basic training. As far as like whenever you get to your first base and whatnot, it's not really going to be an issue, because most of the time you're put into a dorm that, you have your own bedroom, you have a shared bathroom, you might have a shared kitchenette, depending on what type of dorm rooms you have. So that's not really an issue, because you're just sharing one room. It's like a common living area.
Can I
other
add
than
to
your
that
bedroom?
real quick?
What's that?
Hold on 1 second, Pulse. We'll get to you.
Okay.
Oh, and as far as a deployed location, they're not able to deploy whenever they're going through a transition, so that wouldn't really be an issue there. But I haven't really thought about the basic training aspect of it. And I'm speaking from an Air Force aspect, so it could be different from other services as far as the rooming situations.
Okay. And what do you think about that, Grace?
Well, it's interesting. Not having been in the military, there's a lot I don't know. My first impression is that when you talk about morale and causing a rift or even issues in the unit because somebody is different, because there's a social taboo, my first inclination is to say, but that has nothing to do with your objectives. And that said, that doesn't necessarily mean that it wouldn't. But I will say I have yet to see, for example, people who are in the military and trans, or people who have, I don't know if there's been enough time for this, but people who have been openly trans and who have served come out and say, well, that was really terrible. People didn't like me for being trans, and it really stank, and I didn't feel like part of the team and all that. Just like I don't see any gay people coming out of the military and saying, well, when I just let everyone, when I let people know that my significant other was a male, that, oh dear, it caused a, rift in the unit, or it caused people to look down on me and not think of me as a comrade in arms or something. I'm not hearing that. That having been said, I don't know what things are like in basic. I don't know what things are like in boot camp. I don't know. This is why I would suggest nuance when constructing any sort of policy involving transgender people in the military, because there may be situations where you might just have to make rules where you say, well, okay, in basic, if you're changing your name from, Harriet to Harry, we'll call you Harry, but you're still going to bunk with the women. And then once your basic is over, then you can go where you're most comfortable or something like that. I don't know. I honestly just don't know. That said, having being in the LGBT community, to be perfectly frank, I'm actually surprised at how many of my TG friends are veterans. They were closeted at the time because I'm 38, so they tend to be older people. They were closeted, but most all of them are veterans. And the military has quite a reputation too. All branches have quite a reputation for having a fair number of lesbians. And I don't know if this is true about the Navy, but the Navy has a reputation for having a fair few gays. So I think, and I'm not trying to poke fun. I'm as a member of the LGBT community, I'm telling you, I know a hell of a lot more transgender people who have actually served in the military, albeit closeted, than those who have not. And they didn't do anything to get like dishonorably discharged or anything. They served their term, they for king and country, as they say, and then they moved on with the rest of their lives.
Okay. Okay. And okay, so I'm kind of going in order like I have on my Google down here. So Pulse, you had a point of clarification, or did you have a question you wanted to get?
Well, there was something I wanted to clarify and then add to it. I would say, as just an opinion, that when we're talking about somebody joining, I think we need to find out where said person is at in the transition, because like Rich said, you're separated by your rooms in basic training. Well, in the Army, you were separated by gender. By the people I bunked with in basic training, I was in a large bay with 26 other guys. And they separated the females out. Of course, it was a lesser amount of females, so there was only one bay for them as opposed to 3 bays for us, and just one platoon. But I think, to add to what God, I forgot the guy's name. I can't raise. All right. I think when it comes to, especially when it comes to training, the beginning parts of it, I think we need to find out where they're at in the transition, and during the training aspect of it. This is probably going to come out so wrong, but kind of like I don't know. It kind of like put the transition on halt if they're in the middle of transition, if that's the right way to say it. But yeah, it's one of those. I think it would be better for the ones that are coming in that you handle the case by case basis. And on the other side of the coin, I've talked to guys that I know that are still in right now. They say they have transgender people in, and there's no issue.
Right.
But I don't know where they're at in their transition. I don't know if they're beginning or towards the end or fully transitioned or not. And one thing I did want to add with the old school don't ask, don't tell policy. Don't ask, don't tell was just, to me, was just like a cover to kind of keep the PR people off the back. Mm-hmm. Because we had people that we knew were gay. It was just like, okay, whatever. We'll just not say anything about it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Zabora, what do you think about that?
Well, having never served in the military myself, I can't really answer this. But from my understanding, don't they like teach you guys your and you fight as a whole, or am I just like speculating there? This is for our veterans here. Do they do that?
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. What?
Does the military train you guys to fight as a whole unit? To fight like brothers, you're one unit. You're not individuals. Aren't you taught to like become one or some
right.
shit?
Yes.
Or some shit.
Okay.
Yes.
Become one or some shit.
So if that's the case, then how is being transgender going to affect how you're taught to fight? You know, I mean, there's ways that our women are taught, there's ways that our men are taught. How do you guys deal with lesbians and gays? Do you have to separate them out? You know, I'm not advocating that they get their own restroom or something like that. What I'm saying is, like, if you're pre-op, you go with your gender. If you're post-op, you go with that gender. But that's just, you know, how I feel. It's your physical gender. What gender do you currently have?
Yeah. Christina, what do you think?
I think the same thing. I think a good distinction is pre-op versus post-op. You know, that's probably the simplest way we're going to handle the issue in the military, is to go that route. I assume that's kind of what they're doing now with the transgenders that are in the military, is they're probably being, you know, getting their housing in what their current genitalia matches. I don't know. I'm not in the, you know, it wasn't an issue when my best friend was in the Army, or, you know, when my stepdad was in, anything like that. You know, it's just times have changed. So now we're having growing pains. We need to figure out how to deal with it. I still think at this point, that's probably the best way to deal with it, because even if you're having a woman transition to a man, even with hormones, there's some of them that still have their menstruation and stuff. You're going to have better facilities for hygiene like that, probably on the women's side. I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Animist, what do you think?
I'm still having trouble. What's the basic question? By the time everyone gets to the point of view, I've got 15 things going through my head, you know?
I know. I'm sorry. I do it this way because otherwise it just turns into a clusterfuck of people trying to yell over each other.
Just remind me the basic thing you're looking for.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remember myself.
I think the question kind of lost its way when it was my turn, because I don't remember the question either.
It was about, I think it was more towards the housing, I thought.
Because we were
morale.
Yes. Yes. So we were talking about how basically making accommodations, or what accommodations are already in place for people who are transitioning, and, you know, just kind of trying to explore this aspect of you know, what we're really trying to figure out, what would be the obstacles, or what would be the problems that would come up, or how would we, you know, just trying to get your opinion on that.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, my opinion is I'm so body jaded. I don't care what parts you have. You know?
Right.
You need whatever practical facilities you need for everybody's physiological needs. You need bathrooms, you need medical facilities, you need a kitchen. Okay, so what? I don't care. Especially if you're going into a military point of view, and keeping in mind that most of the people in the military are not in direct combat. They really aren't. They're doing jobs that support the structure. You know, it takes 30 guys to put one fighter jet in the air. Okay, so mostly they're just living their lives the same way anyone else is. And so same issues as a movie theater. However, as I might have mentioned before on an earlier episode, I spent, from my personal point of view, I spent 10 years as a professional massage therapist. I don't care what bits you have. I just care whether you're healthy. And I think in a particularly a sort of practical military point of view, that's what matters. Are you healthy? And people who are so neurotic that they are going to freak out over someone with slightly different bits being around them, those are the ones with the mental illness. Those are the ones with the problem. And, you know, oh, I can't be in the same bathroom as a woman used. What the heck? What's going on with that? And, or I don't know if a person, I don't know if it was a real woman that used the same bathroom, or a transitioning woman. How neurotic are you going to get? You know?
Sadly, though, most people think that way. It's like, oh, I can't be in the bathroom with the opposite sex, even if, like, even if they function as and look like the same sex before they go into a bathroom stall. You know, sadly, people are really, really, really neurotic when it comes to the human body. And that's sad.
And you know
Yeah.
what?
So hold on a second, because we're getting into the yelling part. I don't want to do that. I want to actually go down the line and have everybody talk on the topic. So, but that is a good point raised, and I think this is kind of like what we were talking about earlier about how people are talking like this is something new, and honestly, it's not. Transitioning genders have been in the military. Who knows how far back? We may have people who were transgender in militaries, since Greek times or even Roman times. So it's not something that's new. It's something that just maybe has gotten more attention lately. But I mean, we've had service people in the military who have been transgender. So what do you think about that, Sniper Boy?
What?
What? What do you think about the fact that we probably have had transgender people in our militaries going back at least, let's say, the last 100 years?
Yeah, I mean, I don't deny that there are probably like some fine transgender soldiers out there. I'm just very legalistic and old in my view of what the military should be. Like there have been some amazing women military units, like some of the Russian women military units, just like kicking the Nazis on the Eastern Front, or even like the Israelis women. Of course, I just don't believe that they should be sent out into combat, like just as like a gentleman thing. Maybe as like a last resort, but not as like a thing. But I don't know. It's just a very tricky issue. War is it's a well, shoot, what's his name? Like Paul said, it's just like completely different world. And once you're actually put into that situation, everything changes.
Okay, and what do you think about that, Rich?
Okay, I'm losing track of what the question was. I'm sorry.
I'm getting sleepy.
Yeah, that's okay. It was.
Oh, no,
so,
I'm good. I work night shifts, so I'm good.
okay.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So the question was talking about how we have probably had transgender people in the military going back as far as we know, but let's say at least past 100 years. Why is it suddenly now an issue? I guess.
Well, I know that a cousin of mine used to be in the Army, used to be Joey, and is now Marlene. So she went through the transition after she got out of the Army. This was, oh geez, it was probably back in like the 70s or 80s, somewhere around there. But I mean, I know for a fact that we've had, transitioning members, throughout military history. It's just that now it's a big deal because, well, you have a revolution from Stonewall on up, where people are just tired of getting put down on everything. So they're just finally starting to speak up and, take their place in society.
Okay. And what do you think about that, Raise?
Well, the reason it's an issue now is because TG people want to serve openly as opposed to serve closeted. And again, I think they should be allowed to serve openly. And I don't see any problem with paying for their transition. I just think the approach needs to be nuanced, because we were talking earlier about, well, what about basic training and pre-op versus post-op? And frankly, a lot of like pre-op trans women, because of hormones, they already have boobs. So yeah, there might be issues there. But again, it's it's an issue now because, well, TG people want to serve openly, and a lot of people have hangups about people who want to transition. I mean, let's be very frank about it. It involves the human body, and people have hangups about the human body and a lot of misconceptions. There's some misconceptions about transgender people are really screwed up in the head or weak-minded people, like that, like they're so like, oh, they don't know what bathroom to go into. Therefore, they're like far too crazy to go to war. And I'm like, sweetheart, I can show you all. I mean, outside of like say Kristen Beck, who again was closeted while serving, but I can line up several transgender people who have been to war and who have served with distinction. You know what I mean?
Okay. And what do you think about that, Pulse?
I honestly think that the only reason, well, I can't say the only reason, but the main reason why it got brought up now is because Trump decided to take to Twitter about it. So of course it brought everybody's, the opinions that people have out. Now, mind you, a lot of what we see, especially social media, are the ones that flipped out about transgender bathrooms at one time as well. All of a sudden, you had the people that are all of a sudden scared for their daughter.
Right.
Yeah, I think this was going to be brought up at some point anyway, because times are changing. It may not look like it, but society as a whole does adapt. It does change. It does become more accepting to what you would call different people. But I just a little side note here. I think this would probably turn into the next gay marriage. We're seeing Trump talk about a blanket ban, and that's never the best way to handle anything. So if this becomes a blanket ban, you could probably see within the next 5 to 10 years this going to the Supreme Court. It's going to get to that point. Mm-hmm. So I would say, I mean, it's the only reason why we're talking about it. Yeah, it's Trump, but at the same time, it needed to happen sooner or later.
And what do you think about that, Zipporah?
Okay, so as for people serving in the military and trans, people have been trans on a civilization. I'm sorry, sir, I don't remember your name, the one who went before me. As you said, there's only an issue because Trump has said it. This has already been LBGT rights have already been in the military for a long time. So I have no issues with people who are trans in the military. As for the bathroom argument, how many of you guys have ever squatted in a porta potty or in a restaurant that had one toilet and shared that toilet with everybody else? Everybody has, if you're going to be honest with yourself. So, fuck that argument.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, see, everybody, I'm sure everybody's done it at least once. If not, I'm sure. But anyway, my point is, I know that there was issues with kidnappers dressing up in female clothing and going into bathrooms. I'm sure it's happened. But if you really think that little sign on the door that says women only is going to keep out a predator, I mean, do I really need to point out how stupid that is? That's all I got to say.
Okay. All right. And Christina?
I agree with her on this. That sign going to take out, prevent somebody, because I was in college and I was they had right on boards in all the bathrooms throughout the campus. And I had my black feather signature on every single board in every single bathroom. Didn't matter. Anyway, we're having a cultural growing pains thing, and it's something that has been around probably since the dawn of time. The native tribes had places for people that wanted to live at, that felt that calling to go to the opposite gender, things like that. There were societies before where that was accepted. Well, we've had one religion in control for a very long time in the United States, and they want to label everything they don't like as evil. At least the people in power that put Mr. Trump in as president. So there's the other side of us trying to say, hey, there's nothing wrong with this, that sexuality's on a spectrum, things like that. So they're fighting against this, and I think a lot of it is a religious push and a conservative idea that this is abnormal and evil and whatever else they want to label it. So right now as a society, we don't know what to do with people that are gay, transgender, whatever. And so those of us who say, hey, equal rights are equal rights for people, where they have mental health issues, physical issues, male, female, black, white, Hispanic, whatever. Equal rights are equal rights. And they don't want that. They still want to have that division in the society, and because that's the old way of thinking. And so right now we're having labor pains. That's all it is.
Okay. And what do you think, Animist? You remember the question?
I'm sorry.
He's losing his mind, the old man,
Which one?
Me. But no, actually, I just would like to thank, there are people here who are veterans or are currently serving, and the only thing I would say at this point, having seen everything else has been covered, is thanking them for their service. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to thank Rich for the work that he's done on YouTube, because I've seen a bunch of his videos, and I really appreciate your point of view, man.
Oh, thank you.
I haven't lately, but I used to watch Pagan Perspective all the time and watched your personal channel some, and I really appreciate your work as a communicator. Otherwise, I would just like to thank the veterans, and I hope that this society learns to treat their veterans and their serving people with a certain amount of honor and respect. And that's really my go-away statement on the thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with that.
So so let's wrap this up. So I think that one of the important things to remember is that, this was a tweet by Trump. I think kind of like the consensus of what people are talking about. Yeah, it is an issue that maybe we need to address, and maybe some kind of law is going to come about of it, to kind of finalize it. But and also Rich had read this PR statement earlier that the military is still dedicated to treating the people who are serving with respect, and nothing's actually been done so far. This is just something that Trump has tweeted out. I was joking earlier that Trump needs a PR filter on all of his tweets before they go out, because he causes so much chaos.
Yeah.
Tweeting these things out, because he is probably the most powerful man in the entire world, and he's just sending out these stupid tweets. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I swear he's almost been appointed by Ty Malice from the Aztecs, the goddess of chaos. And the Aztecs felt that the more attention you got from the gods, that meant it was a bad thing. Well, we've got it in spades.
Himself, guys. He's just trying to express himself.
Yeah.
Well, I think Donald Trump is actually kind of smart in a way. He is a troll, and he is a very, very effective troll. He's very good at what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it could be. I mean, I honestly don't give him that much. I think he ran because of his ego, and he had the money, and he had the pull, and he wanted to become the president. And now he's the president, and he doesn't know what the fuck to do.
It was, look, mommy, I'm president. You told me I could be president. I'm president.
It's kind of like when you finally get that thing that you really, really, really wanted, and you get it, and then you're like,
oh shit.
Okay. What? Yeah.
What do I do now?
Now what do I do?
Make America.
Guys, I got a solution for anybody that's got a problem with serving with a trans person. I think you should be allowed to leave, all benefits cut, not dishonorably discharged or anything like that. Just that's the end of your service. If you you are that uncomfortable with somebody that has different parts than you, or wants different parts than what you want, you should be allowed to leave. That'll be the end, no repercussions, and that should be that. Because I believe that the people that are making a fuss about this are actually a very minute, small group of people that actually serve in the military. So that's just my thought.
Yeah, I agree with you, Zabora, but I think we tend to have this sort of approach of oversimplifying problems. And I think it's not just a fact of the genitals. I don't think it's that. I think there's other issues that are legitimate. I think that those, although they might not be deciding factors, I think that they are important issues to address. And you know, we just tend to oversimplify things. And so what that does is that side who has these legitimate concerns, we kind of nullify that and then don't pay any attention to that. But there are some genuine concerns, and I think that those are important to listen to and to understand and to alleviate. And just saying that somebody doesn't want to work with somebody because they're transitioning is really oversimplifying it. I don't think it's that simple, you know. Who did we lose?
Sniper.
Well,
okay.
At that point, we're kind of just speculating on what these problems could be. We're really just going to have to sit down, and I know we're going to have to sit down with its transgender servicemen and women and ask, how could we make it better for you? And then even down with, you know, without and say, okay, how can we accommodate you? And the key to good negotiation is nobody walks away happy. But
see, I don't think the question is how can we, you know, make things better for you, because I'm sure that the ones that are already in the military are probably saying, look, I don't want nothing different from the military. I don't want anything to really change just for me.
Sure.
Right. I think this is one of those that, you know, Trump says he sat down with generals. That's hard for me to buy, because you don't just make these type of decisions overnight.
Exactly.
You
Which generals?
Right. But, yeah. I mean, you gotta sit down and talk things out with the chiefs of staff. I mean, everybody. You know, you don't. The military has never made a decision like this before, and even with stuff that they've dealt with in the past that was unprecedented before, you know, you don't just come up with something. All right, well, let's do a blanket thing overnight. It's. I think there's going to be more to this. I think this is not going to be done being talked about for quite some time. So, I think that I don't think it's just going to be a, you know, come across Trump's desk, he's going to sign off, and then that'll be it. I think there's going to be so much more to it.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. I don't think this is something that's going to be solved overnight. Like Christina said, this is new. This is labor pains for us. We've never had to make this kind of decision. Although it does say a lot for our nation that we are talking about this right now.
Yes.
That we have to come forward to address people that are treated differently, or who are different and want to be treated the same. You know, so we are talking about this. So thank you, moronic orange Oompa Loompa.
The Cheeto wearing the guinea pig on its head.
Praise Keck.
See, there's only so much I can say, because I can't badmouth my boss too much. I can disagree with policy, but I can't call him the Grand Cheeto. I cannot say that.
Yeah.
Cheeto Jesus.
No. Oh, because you're still serving in the military?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bottom line, Trump should have just kept this off of Twitter, kept this under wraps until a full decision has been made.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, there's already a policy wherein transgender people can serve. If he doesn't like specific parts of that policy, discuss it, work it out, and then say, here's what I propose.
Now, does anybody here know like the entails of that policy by any chance?
Not really. No.
Because there's probably already stuff in play that was already thought about well in advance, you know, that we probably just talked about. That it looks like it's already been handled already.
Do you
If
know
I
any-
can find the policy, I'll link it in the comments.
Okay.
But there is like a whole policy letter on it and a whole training that you have to go through and everything, at least with the military. So if I can find that, I'll link it to the channel or
Okay,
to the video.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Yeah, just put it in the comment, and because it'll be a link, it'll probably get put in my spam thing, and then I'll approve it. But yeah, that would be good to know.
Yep, will do.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Yeah, because it's sort of like what we did when I did that video response to Anita Fuentes, who was complaining about Wiccans and pagans serving in the military and being able to spend money. So I appreciate your help on that.
That was so much fun. I had a
Oh,
blast doing that one.
Wait,
Wait a second.
Wait.
I missed that
What?
one.
Oh.
What?
Sorry. Okay, so this lady Anita Fuentes made a video about how she was upset that pagans and Wiccans and basically non-monotheistic religions were being able to use funds to go to a particular Beltane festival or something like that in the Midwest.
Oh, gee, I missed that one.
Yeah, it's one of my videos, but Rich kind of he made some very good points in the comment section, and he also made a video response to it. But we kind of like went through the military guidelines for how I can't remember all of it. Rich can probably help me out on it, but there's already sort of how they can spend certain things on certain things, and it's just like if a Christian group wants to spend money on going out to whatever, the same thing can happen if it's a pagan group or a Wiccan group or whatever.
It's
That's why I'm completely against chaplains.
Morale,
exactly.
welfare, and readiness. It's a different pot of money. It's basically if you have a group, you can use that money. So I mean, I use that type of money all the time whenever we had an airman ministry center. Whenever I was stationed in Kansas.
Boy, Anita's behind the times, really, because how many years had Selena Fox been working for things like that in the military? You know, boy, Anita's way behind the times.
I think it goes back to.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think if you just like the way we handle church and state, if you allow for one, you must allow for all, and then they have a problem. It's like, whoa, wait a second. No, we don't want them involved.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why we should maintain just secularism.
And I think the same should be done in the military as well. That's my personal opinion. Chaplains to me are a joke. It should be completely out of it. When you want to talk about funding going to something, funding going to something like that, I don't agree with it all.
Right.
Well, in their defense, the chaplain's job, their primary job is to make sure that your First Amendment rights are taken care of, that you can have whatever service you need whenever you need it and have that time allotted to you. That they are there to be your advocate for your religious rights, not necessarily to convert you to a certain religion, but to make sure that you have what you need to have for your rituals or for any type of observances that you need.
I always found that pretty tough to wrap my head around because every chaplain I ran into, they always had the cross on their lapel.
And that's a common thing. But there was I want to say he was a Baptist chaplain. It was Chaplain Bob. And I don't remember if I put this in that video or not, but he had a Wiccan come to him for Yule, and he says, "Chaplain, I need your help for a Yule service and all that." And Chaplain Bobby's like, "I cannot actually do the service for you, but here's the keys to the community center, the common area that they had." He's like, "Here you go. You need candles. Here you go. Here's these candles. This is what we have to work with." And he got him everything that he needed in order to do whatever he needed to do for Yule. And then he's like, here's the keys, do what you need to do, lock up whenever you leave, and come and get me. He's like, I cannot physically be there because he is also part of his denomination, but he made sure that he could facilitate for that person's needs.
That's not
cool.
bad.
Yeah, I'd say that's fine.
Yeah, that's great. And I'd like to address Rich saying, well, every chaplain you've seen has a cross on the lapel. Yeah, but I have to say, but now there are so many religions now recognized by the military, many of which aren't Christian religions or aren't even Abrahamic religions, including heathenry, by the way. Asatru is now recognized. So then it is incumbent upon the rest of us to actually, now that we can, put forward the work and the effort and the money and the resources and help each other. If there's somebody who needs help becoming a military chaplain, that's what they really want to do, in order to get military chaplains for people of our respective faiths or lack thereof.
The big issue with the chaplaincy is that with the Christian chaplains, they have like a certain set of doctrines that they go by, and that's pretty much a blanket thing throughout their denomination. Whenever it comes to different pagan paths, you have, so many variances that it's hard to have like an established type of doctrine that this is what they go by. So it is a lot more difficult in that aspect.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be rare to have a Gothi or whatever specific title druids might have. Sure, I understand that. We're dealing with small segments of a small segment within society, and I get that the odds are really, really against us, and it's not fair. But now that the path is open, we better walk it. And if somebody wants to come to me and say, I would like to be a pagan chaplain, and here's, this is really what I want to do, then I would be like, okay, how can I help? Do you want me to, say, buy you a specific book, or do you want me to link you to resources? Because if I find resources, I'll link you to them. I mean, what do you want me to do to help you to do that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think even if you are pagan and want to be a chaplain, get involved with the UU church, and that might be your avenue for going and becoming a military chaplain in that aspect.
Yeah.
I would look into it. I don't know all the nuances to that part.
Yeah, it's kind of like the problem that what's his name? It was kind of like the same problem that there was this guy who was behind getting chaplains into jails, pagan denominations into jails, and basically because they only allow certain chaplains to go in to jails, but they won't allow all chaplains to go in to represent for the various pagan faiths are in jails. And I think one of the reasons why they were sort of hesitant to do that is because then you have to have all these chaplains for each and every single, pagan or non-Abrahamic religion, and there's quite a few of them, so it kind of gets a little, I think in their minds, logistically, it gets to be a little chaotic. I mean, I agree. I think that if following the First Amendment, either everybody gets it or nobody gets it. And I personally think that it's just easier if just nobody gets it, if we were just maintain our secular point of views. And if you have a service, or if you're going off to campaign or something, you can still practice your beliefs, but offside the base. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure it's probably a minority opinion in this group, but that's how I view it.
And another thing I wanted to say was, and I brought it up in that video that I did against Anita, it was that you can, if you want to know where your tax dollars are being spent, you can basically ask. You do a Freedom of Information Act request where you can ask where your tax money is being spent.
Yeah. So, all right, I think I'm going to start wrapping this up because we've almost gone on for 2 hours. But I want to give everybody a little closing thought on this, what they think is maybe what's going to happen with this, what they think might come about from this. And I think I'll go in reverse order because Animist and Christina and Zamora haven't talked recently. So I'll go all the way down to Animist. What do you think, Animist?
I think it's a process in process, and I hope everyone has good luck with that. Most of my work is sort of between the village and the wilderness, and so I kind of run in here and talk to you guys for a while, and then I go back to my weird stuff. And so, but I think that in the course of the last, several decades, American society has come a heck of a long way, and it's got a long way to go, but I've been pleased overall at the progress that's been made. And there's always going to be a little back and forth and a little overcorrection one way, a little undercorrection the other way, and that's just part of it. And so I hope that works out, continues to evolve the way it should.
Okay. And what are your closing thoughts, Christina?
I think we just have to ride the labor pains out and see where it goes, and do our best to help each other out in the meantime, and get out there and vote and push your congressmen, push your senators, and don't take anything for granted in any upcoming elections. It's our voting is our civic duty. And it's a lot of people didn't do it. And that's how we are having this mess now. But I'm hoping that positive is going to come out of this mess. Maybe Trump is the catalyst we needed to get these conversations out there. So.
Okay. And what are your closing thoughts, Deborah?
I agree with Christina. You need to, if you want heard, you need to contact your local representative and tell them, hey, I don't agree with this. Make sure you vote against it. But I would legitimately like to hear some kind of concern that the other side has, because I'm pro transgender in the military. I honestly didn't think this was an issue until Trump tweeted about it, because I thought this was solved. So we'll just have to see what information comes forth from this. I would hate to do what I did last time, be like, haha, Trump, no one's going to vote for me. And then, we're swearing him into office. So I don't want to be lax about this. Definitely call your senators and voice your opinion.
Okay. And Pulse, what are your final thoughts?
Just to cover a couple things I said earlier, it's not something you can just make a blanket decision over. I think you really got to get down into the details of all of it, not just the main talking points, but the details of all of it to be able to come up with a good outcome. And it's I could probably see it being a long road ahead.
Okay. And Rays, aka Mike.
Is that who was doing that?
Sorry about that. I moved my mic away, so hopefully it'll be better. If it's not, let me know. And I'll mute. First, I think I would love it if people, not you guys, but just people in general, were to chill out, because one, it is just a Trump tweet. It's not policy. Not all trans people are banned yet. Just take a breath. I also think on the other side, people need to not flip out, because they have this misconception that if somebody's on hormone therapy and maybe they used to be one thing and now they're another, and they're going into a different bathroom than you'd like, that they're molesting your children, and if they were ever in a real war, they'd suddenly just cower and run away, and everything would be higgledy-piggledy, and the country will collapse. Right? You need to just take a breath. All right? I think this issue needs to be approached with nuance, because people who are transitioning are going to have different medical needs, going to have different complications. They're going to be in different stages of transition. And there are different jobs in the military. And again, and basic is going to be different than just, once you're, deployed or whatever. It's different. And I think that people in general, I think on all sides need to educate themselves, because like if I'm going to sit here and have like a hard and fast opinion, I really need to learn a hell of a lot more about the military and their policies regarding health issues and who gets admitted, who doesn't, and the current policy regarding transgender people. And the last second to last thing I want to say is I think that voting and writing Congress is a good idea, but if you want to really help, if you want to help house the homeless, go volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. If you want to feed the homeless, volunteer at a food bank, or volunteer, at a church if you're okay with, volunteering at a church, or, actually go and do something. If your cause is for veterans or deployed troops or something, there is something called Adopt a Soldier, where you're writing to soldiers once a week who are deployed. And there's all kinds of things for veterans and, support for veterans and stuff. So I think if you want to improve things, I think depending on the government, it's great if you want to vote. Don't get me wrong. Go ahead and vote. But I think at this stage of the game, whatever your cause is, you have to go and do something to support that cause, rather than tell the government to do something and leave it in their hands. The VA is shit. On that note, final thought, I promise, I do want to thank veterans, regardless of gender identity or sexual orientation or any of that. Thank you for your service, and anyone who is still in the service, thank you for your service, because I do understand that it's extremely hard work, and also that you may be called on to risk your life, and I think that is becoming yet more and more likely just because of our foreign policy. And so, not being able to serve, I understand that you don't even know me. You may not even like me. You might hate my guts for whatever reason, but you're still putting yourself at risk for me. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Race. And did you have any final thoughts, Rich?
Basically, I just wanted to say, or reiterate what some other people said was, educate yourself on, what exactly these people are going through. If you don't know, there's plenty of people out there to talk to. You can go to any LGBTQ type center and get pamphlets of information on this type of issue, such as what the process would be. You can go to a doctor and find out what the process would entail, just for an educational basis. Another thing is that who was it that said about Raz? Yeah, said about if you want to volunteer to help the troops and the Adopt a Soldier, there's also one called Dogs on Deployment. If you actually want to adopt a dog while somebody is in a deployed location, you can adopt their dog, cat, bird, whatever they have. So that's also a good little resource if you can house animals. Stuff like that. Getting involved in your community is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Especially with something like this. It's definitely a big issue. You get the word out there, you educate each other, and we all end up becoming better as a whole.
Okay. And also, if all of you, because I know all of you have a YouTube channel, so if you want to plug your channel, go ahead and do that. And so I know, Christina, let's see. Also, if you want, if you post it in the chat in here, we have a little.
I can't. I'm on the tablet, but I'll
you're on
post
the
mine
tablet?
in the comments afterward.
Okay. What's the name of your channel?
Black Feather Crafts. I also am working more on my second channel, which is Christina Talks. But my main one is gaming and artwork. I'm doing face painting signs here, so.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
definitely post it in the comments section afterward, so people can check out your channel. And Zipporah, do you want to plug your channel?
Yeah, hi. My channel is Comedic Witchcraft. I'm pagan. I talk about pagan topics and witchcraft-related topics. I'll go ahead and just post a link on the video.
Okay.
In the comment section.
Okay. And Pulse, you mostly just comment on other people's videos, right? Or you don't really make videos, do you?
No, I did a couple years back, but I just don't have the time to actually sit down and fully make one.
Okay, well, that's all right. Do you want to plug your channel or?
Sure. You're gonna be extremely bored if you sub to me. So.
Yeah.
But what is it? Pulse of Defiance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just by the name. Like I said, I don't do anything anymore, so I just bounce around from here to there.
Okay. All right. And Raise?
Yeah, it's just Raise a Village, spelled, all one word, RAZEAVILLAGE. It's a vlog channel, so I'm kind of boring, but please, by all means, subscribe if you want. But I'm not attached to subscribers so much, only because I don't have like a particular cause or something for which I advocate. I just get on there and say, this is what happened to me today, and this is what I think about it.
And Rich?
Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Mine is Crystal Witch 2005. I do a lot of stuff on Christo-paganism, on paganism in general, and I have to actually do a video. I'm doing a series on saints, so that's fun. Yeah, I talk about just about anything, so if anybody ever has a topic that they want to discuss, I'm all for it.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate you coming on and being patient and talking on this topic. I think it was, I don't know what's going to come about from it, but I think it's good to at least talk about it. I mean, we're all kind of just sort of amateurs talking about this, but it was a good topic. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody in the chat. Looks like it kind of calmed down a little bit.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, blessed be everybody.
Good night.
Bye.